Get out the insurance cards, get out the co-pays. The office is open, my friends, as this video is brought to you by drroto.com.
Good evening, my friends. Welcome to the first sip, brought to you by drroto.com, your daily prescription of fantasy sports. Chris, you know why I'm excited about this week?
Because it's got to be better than last week, right?
Got to be better than last week, man. Good God. Oh, man. We have had some gems this year. We really have. We've had some really good weeks. We've been spot on most weeks on our favorite plays. That was not the case last week. I'm looking through our show notes from last week and the names I scribbled down. Agnew was our best pick last week. Agnew.
To be fair, I think part of it was just that late news and reacting to it, and like you hate yourself if you don't react to it and it pops off, and you hate yourself when you react to it and it doesn't. And so I ended up with a lot more Swift than I had intended. I ended up with a lot more Kyle Pitts than I intended, and neither of those worked. Had some good lineups, but had a lot of bad pieces. Felt like I was kind of cursed last week. So it is what it is, man, you know.
Nah, true story. Speaking of Kyle Pitts, I know we'll just start with that game. Why not? Let's just start right away with that game. There's a lot going on, Atlanta and New Orleans. Pitts, man, I mean, they're just going to cover him, right? I mean, they're just going to bottle him up. What are they're going to have to try to like split him out, put him in the slot, motion him around. I mean, he's the guy. I think that's bad for Pitts to have Ridley gone.
Yeah, but he's still not going to be on the outside, so that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to see like Lattimore or somebody like that. And at the same point, I mean, if you're getting a guy that's getting 10, 12 targets, which is kind of, I think, a reasonable expectation for Pitts, I still absolutely playable. And I think a lot of people are going to have some of the concerns that you have. I think the bigger concern is just whether or not this offense is going to be able to move the ball. They have not looked really good in Atlanta. I mean, save the Washington football team game, save the game over in London against the Jets. So they've really only moved the ball against really bad teams. And that's the bigger concern that I have. Like New Orleans defense, I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks, has looked a lot better. Like, look, yeah, they gave up a ton of points to Tom Brady and the Bucks, but I think that's more of the exception as opposed to the rule. I don't necessarily expect this to be a high-scoring affair on either end, and as such, I'm probably not super interested. I mean, I think Cordell Patterson is a interesting GPP play, but I just don't know how many times I'm going to get over to him. His price is still pretty fantastic for his role. It's just this is a good defense in New Orleans, and they're coming into form, and I think I want to avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking. I just shared the screen here. Winston obviously out. Michael Thomas, I guess news today he's done for the season. Ridley stepped away, probably gone at least the season, maybe permanently. Yeah, man. Taysom Hill still kind of banged up. Gage banged up. I mean, where's the interest here at all outside of Kamara, if any?
Yeah, no, look, I think Kamara still makes a great play. I think, like I said, Cordell Patterson just ran the Sims just to take a look. I don't have ownership yet. It's way too early for that, but just to see who's going to pop in the optimal. Some common names like a Jarvis Landry, for example, is the number one guy. But Alvin Kamara is down there at about 15%. Cordell Patterson's at 15%. I think there's a pretty fair correlation between the two of those guys. And so that makes sense that they'd be around the same. So, if you did want to like small stack and attack this game that way, I think I'd be all for it. Yeah, definitely not a spot that I'm interested in cash. I've toyed with, so I'm doing a couple different things this week. When you just get beat down as bad as I did, probably like the worst day that I've ever had in DFS gambling, just all together, and then just mainly because my exposure was higher. You start to rethink things, rethink life and just everything in general. So I've got a couple things that I'm looking at, and I started earlier in the week, but I tend not to do much until Thursday just to kind of give myself some decompression time. But I think you'll see a little bit different aspect to the article and a couple different things that I've been working on. So I've gotten through it with from the quarterback perspective, not the skill positions, but a little different approach coming.
All right. Well, I, for one, look forward to it. Let's talk about Houston heading to Miami. We have a 6.5 point favorite in the home team, 46 over under. Man, I mean, we kind of thought that we would get a little David Johnson last week. Another little misstep there. Any interest in just trying it again?
Well, yeah, and look, and the bigger misstep was the reason I went to David Johnson was to make sure I at least had a little bit of Derrick Henry. And that didn't work. That didn't work on all levels. And
no, it was bad.
Yeah, no, it was atrocious. I actually think I went and picked up David Johnson in one of my redraft leagues because I think he does have some upside, I guess. I mean, I just don't know. Like, this Miami defense has been good at times. It's been exploitable at times, but it's typically been exploitable via the air. And I just have a hard time with this Houston team doing anything outside of garbage time, getting you to a point where you want to play them. On the other side of things, I almost want to play like everybody from Miami, even me, number one Tua hater. I think Tua's pretty interesting.
Sure.
Myles Gaskin, probably not so much, but we've seen, 12 and 15 carries the last 2 weeks, which was part of the big issue that we had with him. Waddle, Parker, Gesicki. I don't want to like super stack this game, but I do want parts of it, I think.
Yeah, I think if Myles Gaskin can get him, another one of those 15 touch games with 3 or 4 targets. I mean, we've seen him. I mean, we're looking at it right now, ripping off 31 points, 17 points. He's got the talent. It's one of those things, like, we kind of made fun of Miami for not playing him and having no idea what to do with him. And then he ripped off 31, and then they went back to not using him again.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of you almost have to assume that this is a must-win game for Miami. So I do have my hesitations about what type of game plan that they're going to put out there. But, the big thing for me has always been that Tua has a hard time progressing through his reads. And this is just common that you see with these younger quarterbacks. And I don't know what kind of pressure this Houston team's really going to put on him. So I think a lot of his weaknesses are going to be, masked to some extent. And that's why I'm kind of on some of these Miami guys.
Yeah, I've had no issue playing Waddle all year. I like him pretty much in any setting. Gesicki too, when it's in the right setting, and this is the right setting. So I don't know if I can stack this team, but I think that you'll see me fill out rosters with Gaskin, Waddle, Gesicki. Their prices are right.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it.
All right, let's keep going. Let's go to Denver, heading over to Dallas. Right now, they've got Dallas as a 10-point favorite. Are we going to see Dak Prescott this week? What's your gut feeling?
I would think so, man. I'm so over Denver, though, after last week. We're not going to talk about Denver,
Nope.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Nope. Instructions from the guys above not to bring up
Jerry Jeudy. There's no Noah Fant. I think he's on the COVID list. I mean,
yes,
like,
correct.
Man, what sucks was, we talked about Jerry Jeudy at nauseum in the Discord. And, I started thinking about that when I was putting up my lineups. I didn't, especially my afternoon ones, I was building a lot of Cortland Sutton because we weren't the only ones. Like, so I browsed around a couple other podcasts, some shows that I saw on Twitter that weren't ours that were, just on my timeline. And a lot of people were talking about the Denver Broncos. And so, I don't hate it, but I felt like Cortland Sutton was just such a fantastic pivot. And, he caught that first pass. I think it was on maybe the first or second drive. And I was like, all right, okay, we're in for a big game. And like, that was it. I mean, that was it. So,
yeah.
I think I'm a little bit more interested in the running back situation here. Ezekiel Elliott at 7K, Tony Pollard 4,700, very interesting GPP. We saw that Denver team look decent defensively last week, but we're not so far removed from when Dearness Johnson just sliced them up. And now you've lost Von Miller, not necessarily a run stopper, but I think this Dallas team is significantly better. They're at home. They're just going to run the ball. We've seen Dallas do that. I think they're going to protect Dak. I would expect 19 to 25 passing attempts, and so that's a prop that I think we can kind of look at is maybe take the unders on a lot of this Dallas passing game.
Yeah, you've got Lamb a little banged up. You got Cooper a little banged up. You got a little interest towards Schultz here. Little interest towards Schultz.
Yeah, 4,800. Sure.
How about the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Gallup, possibly coming off IR to play in this game?
Yeah, I wonder if that actually kind of hurts Schultz and hurts his target share. So
3,900. If he's good to go, I think I stick him in the lineup. Sure,
absolutely. I think that's a great GPP play. But
otherworldly talent the man has.
The best.
Otherworldly. All right, let's keep rolling. We got the Cleveland Browns and Cincinnati Bengals. Let's talk about that for a minute. We had Odell Beckham attempt to orchestrate some kind of social media online blitz, including LeBron James and a couple other people, to kind of force Cleveland hand to trade him. Didn't work. Now he's been told to go home. What do you think of that?
When was the last time Odell Beckham was good?
2017.
I mean, he's one of those guys.
Oh, I just threw that number out there. I figured that was close.
I mean, I think you're being even generous at that point. Odell's just like one of those guys. He's like Josh Gordon, like where, people are like, oh, you're so attracted to this name because he had such great talent at one point, but I just haven't seen it. Yeah, he's missing a ton of targets, but even when he's been targeted a ton this year, last year, the year before, hasn't done anything. Maybe it's just time to come around to the fact that he's not good. I mean, remember all the people that went and rushed and got Josh Gordon on waivers and all these things when he got it. What has he ever done? Like, what is he? It was $200 on the showdown and he didn't even pay that salary off.
No.
So
he was great in 2012 though.
Yeah. For 1 year, 1 year.
What about Cleveland just cuts him and he re-signs with the Giants?
I don't think that they're going to do that. And somebody pointed out that if they're not feeding Odell 10 to 15 targets a game, maybe he just kind of shuts down and isn't involved in the game and doesn't, mentally.
Oh, for sure. He did that in New York, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not interested in Odell. I don't think they're going to cut him. Why would they?
Okay. Well, let's talk about positive news. I want all in on Nick Chubb this week. I want to double back down on him. I'm in. I love him below 7,000. You can run all over Cincy. I'm in on Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I mean, I think all parts of this game, you're getting a buy low situation. My only concern is that it's a divisional game. And a lot of the big play or big point totals that have been put on Cincy have come in the passing game, and I'm concerned about Nick Chubb's role there. But I do want to go back to Jamar Chase. I do want to go back to Tyler Boyd. I do want to go back to T. Higgins. And I do want to go back to Jarvis Landry. So there are a lot of pieces within this game that I am interested in. Again, I'm probably not double stacking it. I'm not necessarily going to be playing in either of the quarterbacks, but from a GPP standpoint, both of these wide receiving cores look great.
I'm happy that Jamar continues to go up in price, but I'm still shocked he hasn't gone up more.
So with Jamar, the problem that I had with Jamar Chase at the beginning of the year was that he wasn't getting a ton of targets. Those first 3 games, 7, 4, 5. The last 4 games, 10, 6, 10, and 8. So he's getting the targets. He has the big play ability. He's very similar to Tyreek Hill, in my opinion, in terms of his absolute boom potential, even at a 7,600. So if he continues to see those, 8 to 10 targets, I'm all over it. The pace at which Cincinnati plays versus Cleveland, there is some disparity there, and that would be kind of the concern. You are looking for Cincinnati to get out ahead of this game. So,
yeah, interesting. Yeah, first look, I love Chubb. I'll listen to what you say. I'll think about it. We'll reconvene Sunday morning again
For sure.
We'll reconvene Sunday morning. That's probably the best idea. All right, let's keep moving on. I lost track of where I was. We are going to Minnesota, heading to the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are 6-point favorites, 49.5. I kind of like this game. I kind of like starting with Lamar and Hollywood, coming back with Jefferson and just seeing what it looks like.
Yeah, I love the Baltimore side of this. I think Minnesota is a team in disarray. Like, how do you lose to Cooper Rush in primetime? Like, how does that happen? How do you lose with like the components that you have there on offense? How do you lose as having like a defensive minded coach that just can't manage his game? I don't know. I like the Baltimore side of things. I think Mark Andrews is a great play too. Yeah, load it up. I wish that there was like a clear and concise running back on the Baltimore side of things, but you know, what is it? Devonte Freeman? Is that the guy this week? Is that what's going on? Like, I don't know. And do I even want to play him?
No, I don't think you need to. I think if you're, not into playing Hollywood at 6,000, you can just play Lamar by himself in this matchup. I don't know, man. I think I had a lot of high hopes for Kirk Cousins this year. I thought another year with Jefferson, a healthy offensive line. I don't know. I think maybe he just he doesn't look like he's reading coverage at all, which, I mean, I watched him at Michigan State, of course, and he didn't then either. So it's not really that surprising. He just has not been as good as I wanted him to be this year.
Yeah, I mean, it can be the play calling too. It can be what they want to do offensively. I mean, everybody knows where the ball is going to go, and the plays just look redundant. So I don't necessarily put it all on Kirk because he's better than what we've seen. I think it comes back to the coaching staff, and this team is just, not responding. I think Zimmer needs to go, and Minnesota needs an overhaul. So that's why I like Baltimore here.
Yeah, me too. It's hard to not look at Dalvin Cook at 77. I mean, that's a pretty damn good price for his ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that this Baltimore defense has, they've had spots where they've given up some big points. They gave up big points to the Colts. They gave up big points to the Lions running backs. But outside of that, they've been pretty stout. And, against Cincinnati, those were some big plays. Jamar Chase just gashed them. But I don't know. Justin Jefferson has not looked as good this year. Aaron Thielen is getting older. I don't know. I think that this is a game where Baltimore just kind of cruises. I know I said that about the game against Cincinnati, but I think they're coming off a bye, right? So yeah, I mean, I love them here.
All right. Keep moving on. Las Vegas heading over to play the Giants. Vegas is a 3-point road favorite, it looks like. Obviously we don't need to touch on it. We know Ruggs is gone. I don't really care. It doesn't change Braylon Edwards for me. Brian doesn't really change much of anything for me. I don't.
It's not Braylon. It's Brian.
Brett. Sorry,
Braylon's way back.
Look, man, I was in Michigan State mode all week. I'm still high on the Spartans win. You gotta leave me alone.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's why I didn't have a good slate, is I couldn't roster Derek Carr. Like, that's been always like my fallback when everything else falls apart. Derek Carr is there to lift me up and come through at low ownership and just really deliver a great game for me. So I guess the biggest concern that I have with this team is like, it's not like Ruggs was an essential piece in terms of volume. But Ruggs did play a role in this team in terms of moving the ball downfield at times, even through pass interference, being able to add that speed element that I don't think Zay Jones is going to come in and really do for them. So do they transform to more of an underneath team where they're throwing the ball to Hunter Renfrow, where they're throwing the ball to Darren Waller? That's what remains to be seen. On the other side of things, this New York team is just completely banged up, and even if Tony, Ross, or Slayton play, are they going to make it through the game? So interesting play on that side of things. If you're looking for a 3K wide receiver, and a couple of these guys do end up not playing, I think Colin Johnson is the guy that you could go to at 3K this week.
Yeah, it's possible. I think you're going to see huge ownership in Hunter Renfrow at 4,800, just like massive.
He popped in the Sims. He's the third highest player in the Sims in terms of optimal, 17% of the time at 4,800.
Yeah. Might be a eat the chalk situation. Maybe not. We'll see. We'll see how the rest of the week shakes out. All right, let's go to Buffalo Bills heading to Jacksonville. I mean, my gut says Buffalo just rolls and Jacksonville does nothing, but it is in Florida.
No, your gut's right, man. This is going to be this could be Buffalo winning by 30. I mean, look, Josh Allen at 8,200. He is one of those quarterbacks so far this season that, either just kind of just duds on you because of his price or absolutely smashes and just gives you a leg up on the competition because despite his price, he's able to 4 and 5X. And I love Josh Allen this week. I think they run up the score. The only aspect of this Jags team that I might be, swayed to play would be a Dan Arnold who saw a ton of targets. I guess you could go back to Jamal Agnew too, but this is going to be a game where they're going to get trucked, man. I don't care that it's in Jacksonville. This Jacksonville team's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. Beasley's underpriced at 5,400 if he's healthy. If he for some reason doesn't go, do we like the Sanders play, or is it just Diggs?
I think you can. So look, they're implied for 31 points. That means there's going to be 2 or 3 touchdowns that you can just assess to the wide receivers right away. Assume maybe the running backs get 1. So yeah, I think you can play any of these guys, all of these guys, or anything in between. Yeah, even a Gabriel Davis is playable to me.
Yeah, he looked all right. Any interest in playing either running back, Moss or Singletary, in this matchup?
Not really. Not off the top of my head. Nah.
Yeah. Dawson Knox might be back. Got to keep an eye on that. I mean, I guess you don't have to. You don't have to keep an eye on that. How about the Patriots heading down to Carolina? I don't think we're going to see McCaffrey quite yet. I think I saw him walking around at practice, but not doing anything.
Well, he's got a Q tag. He's not ruled out at this point. I think McCaffrey is super, in play if he is playing. But, aside from that, I guess I don't have it. Like I'm over. I am over the Carolina Panthers at this point. And their defense is good enough that I don't want to take stabs on the other side. One of the things that I've kind of looked at so far this week was just looking at it felt like this. So I would go in every week and it would just feel like the quarterback position, like no matter what, they would get there. They'd get your 3X, So I was like, well, it felt like everybody was getting it. So I look back at it and almost everybody was. You'd have your 2 or 3, maybe 4 quarterbacks that don't get there. And if you had that quarterback, you were just drawing dead from the start because you also probably had one of their pass catchers, and it was probably Sam Darnold and DJ Moore. That was kind of what sparked that. Josh Allen was a guy that would 4 or 5X, and that's what you see is like week after week, you're seeing a bunch of the quarterbacks kind of just hit their expected floor value. You see 2 to 4 of them just go absolutely bonkers, and you need one of those guys, especially if they're one of the high price guys. And then you see 3 or 4 of them that just kind of fail. So that's going to be the crux of what I was talking about earlier, was just trying to identify who those 3 or 4 guys are going to be. And it's not going to be Sam Darnold. It's not going to be Mac Jones. And I don't want any part of this game as a result.
Yeah, I'm not too interested. I mean, obviously if McCaffrey plays, you always think about him, but what I'm seeing is he's trending not to play. So.
And that may be the case. I mean, and to be fair, Mac Jones did have one week where, he put up a 5X performance. It was against the Jets. I'm not there. I'm not there on Sam Darnold. I've been burned too many times at this point. I'll be okay if either of these guys smash and I don't have it. Kudos to the person that rosters them.
All right, we got super excited last time this happened, but we are back to a 3-game slate in the afternoon.
Yeah, and unfortunately, these games are not as interesting as they were maybe 24 hours ago.
For sure. Well, let's start with the Chargers heading to Philadelphia. I feel like Eckler is always a guy you got to look at. He's still below $8,000. I love it. Mike Williams has cooled off, has he not? Very much so. Yeah.
Well, so yeah, we've seen kind of him be hot and cold. This is kind of what we weren't going to see him put up 20 to 40 points every single week. He's had 2 weeks of kind of down production, but I think you go back to Mike Williams at 7,100. He's going to be super low owned, and that's kind of where you want him. Keenan Allen at 60. Yeah, all the pieces in this Chargers offense are something that you need to consider every single week. On the Eagles side of things, I mean, this defense and this run defense from the Chargers is terrible. I think you can absolutely play Boston Scott if you feel confident in Boston Scott. I guess you can play Kenneth Gainwell if you want to get kind of crazy and just like, why not? Why wouldn't Kenneth Gainwell come out and score 2 touchdowns this week after he burned everybody else? I had a mild
theory that they stuck with Howard and Scott because, trade deadline. And maybe one of them pops off and they get an offer.
Who knows?
It's possible. I mean, you see that happen sometimes. I as you saw in our private Discord, I think Gainwell is the most talented running back in that backfield, including Miles Sanders. So I'd really like to see him come out.
The concern that I had with Gainwell was that they just did not give him, a ton of carries prior to last week, and so it was hard to project him to have a workload. But let's be honest. I mean, he was out there for 20 snaps, and he had 13 rushes. He just didn't have anything in the end zone. He didn't do much with those rushes, and that may be why they didn't go to him. He had 13 rushes, 27 yards, 2.1 yards an attempt. Whereas you get somebody like Boston Scott, who was up at 5 yards an attempt, similar, 12 carries, just 2 of them went into the end zone, 60 yards. And then if you look at just Jordan Howard, same thing, man, 12 carries, just did a lot more with them and got into the end zone. So I don't know if it was the coaching, like it didn't feel like that watching the game, but now looking back on it, maybe it was just he wasn't performing. So they went to the other guys and rewarded them for moving the ball. You can always play Hurts. I was glad to see he kind of failed. That was the only thing that gave me even a glimmer of hope last week was the chalk Hurts failing finally for the first time this year, but not in the way that you thought, not in the way
painful. Would. How do they beat the Lions 44-6 and Hurts puts up 11 points?
They just run the ball on them and they don't need to do anything. The defense, crazy. I mean, the defense was pretty good at least pressuring on 3rd and 4th down. Goff didn't have a lot of opportunity. Well, I mean, he did, but he didn't at the same time. There were plenty of times where that offensive line just failed him. And, he gets all the blame for it, but the offensive line looked terrible. This was just it was a bad game for the Lions. I feel like the Lions kind of play to their level of competition, but they're just a little bit worse. So you play the Rams, we're going to be like a top 3 team in the NFL, just not good enough to beat you. We're playing a bottom team, we're going to be the worst team in the league,
right?
And that's it is what it is. But
I don't know. I kind of really like LA this week because people are down on Herbert, and but I could play Herbert, Williams, Eckler, and just go from there.
Yeah, and Herbert's one of those guys that can get you even at that 7K. He's done it. He's gotten you 3x, multiple times. He's gotten you 4 and 5x. So Philly can move the ball at times. This defense from the Chargers is bad, and that is something that you need for your offense to go off, is your defense to give up a ton of points. Maybe the team even falls behind, a la Tampa Bay last week. And, we see them do that. The only the thing that's bad is that they usually allow those. So if the Chargers are giving up points, they're usually giving it up on the ground, which means the game goes faster. And if the Chargers are behind, a lot of times it's because they're just not completing drives. There's penalties, and the game's going it's going quicker. So yeah, I don't know. Definitely a game to keep your eye on. I think it'll be kind of popular though.
Yeah. You could be right. All right, let's skip over to Arizona, heading to San Francisco, and we'll finish up Green Bay and Kansas City. What do you make of Murray in his kind of growing list of dings?
It's the biggest concern that I have. When we look back at the Arizona team last year and we look at Murray and the production that he had, it was fantastic for the first, several games, half the year, whatever the case was. Then he started getting like ankle injuries and different things, and he was playing through it. Credit to him. They were still winning games at times, but it wasn't the same team. He wasn't running the ball the same way. And at 8K, you need him to do that. I'm just really down on Arizona this week as a result of that. It's a divisional matchup against a team that doesn't like to throw the ball. I'm not even sure that Kyle Shanahan knows that he has any wide receivers on his team aside from Debo. Ayuk is there. So, yeah, I mean, I expect Eli Mitchell to be a guy that I look at very, very closely. I think that this is a game where San Francisco can beat Arizona. I think
so. I think Murray's dinged up, man. He looks like he did at the end of the season last year.
Yeah, I think that veil of invincibility has been lifted. J.J. Watt off of the defensive line certainly hurts this team. And, yeah, I might put a couple wagers on that. Maybe a little San Francisco-Baltimore kind of parlay.
Well, my news sources tell me Kittle is trending towards playing. You saw Ayuk get 7 targets last week. Eli Mitchell is turning out to be pretty good. Hopkins continues to be banged up. Murray continues to be banged up. Chase Edmonds is banged up. San Francisco could run away with this game.
Yeah, conversely, though, we could just be overreacting to a narrative that we're creating in our head, and Kyler Murray could just put up ridiculous video game numbers like Justin Fields did.
I mean, if you don't think that I'm going to put a lineup with Arizona's squad in it, I mean, I'm going to. So.
For sure. I mean, that's the big – so the problem that I have with Murray at his price is that you almost need some of that rushing upside. You need the threat of him getting into the end zone. Otherwise, you need 3 or 4 passing touchdowns. And the problem that you have is that you don't have that upside with James Conner being as efficient as he has been, especially within the 5, just stealing some of those touchdowns, not just away from Kyler Murray's legs, but from the passing game as well. So probably won't have a ton of Kyler Murray himself, but may have some Hopkins, some Kirk, because I believe AJ Green is out with COVID. So that does kind of elevate the rest of this wide receiving core. And then Hopkins has hurt himself. So, that could be the thing. Like, it could be Kirk more, like that's where you could find some of that value.
Yeah. I always like throwing Kirk in as one-off. I mean, he's just kind of that guy that could put up 20 points on 3 or 4 catches.
Yeah, I think Ertz and Moore would stand to get a lot of those short passing routes, though. So we need to see how this develops. I'm kind of interested in this game a little bit more so than I was before. So stay tuned, fellas.
Yeah. All right, let's bring it home, man. Green Bay heading to Kansas City. Gosh, you saw this game on the schedule 6 weeks ago and you were excited.
I don't look at games that far in advance.
Well, I mean, I don't either. But if you were one to look at the 4:00 games 6 weeks in advance, you see Green Bay, Kansas City, you get pretty excited. I don't know, man. I mean, obviously Rodgers isn't going to play. I think it was Mick in our Discord was saying, man, Adams should just take the week off. He just be like, oh, I don't feel great. He won't do. He'll play. But
man, I don't know. I mean, like Kansas City's looked that bad.
They have bad. Their defense is bad.
I kind of. I mean, at 8 points, I'm probably interested in taking Green Bay. +8. Definitely looking at Green Bay defense. Patrick Mahomes has more turnovers than like half the teams in the NFL, and a lot of them are his fault. Some of them aren't, but a lot of them are. And this team just does not have that aura around them. And we're waiting for them to bust out and regain it. And they might, but they might not. We've seen it enough now with quarterbacks coming in, making their first start, that they can come in and whether it's Cooper Rush, whether it's Mike White, they can have some type of success. So I would be interested at +8, and I'm not ruling Green Bay out. And I don't think like Devonte, like he's not going to take the day off. Come on,
No,
get real.
I don't know, man. Jordan Love, 4,400. He's probably going to be super popular, but
I would say super popular. I mean, let's see. When we go back and look at Jordan Love, so at 4,400, you're kind of hoping that he has some level of, rush upside, and I don't know if we really have seen that in any of the games that he's ever played. So, yeah, I mean, nah, I'm probably not interested. I'd probably rather just take a wager on the game.
Sure, fair enough. Any thoughts about Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Colts are a better team. I think Carson Wentz is a good quarterback with terrible judgment. And yeah, I'll play some Pitts and some Taylor, and not buying into the Michael Carter. I mean, look good, man, but like he's not going to get like a million targets 5 yards out. And we talk about this all the time. If we can identify how a team was successful, our thought is that defensive coordinators can do the same. And I just don't expect the same holes to be evident on a much better defensive team in Indianapolis that were there for Cincinnati, and I expect the Colts to be able to take care of business there. So
fair enough. I did a same game parlay. I had a free bet given to my account for $10. So I did alternative spread. I think I did -2.5 for obviously Indianapolis. I think I did over 39.5. I did over 49. Yeah, over 39. Over 39 yards for Michael Carter. And I did two touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor.
I like it. I mean, I think the big thing is like when you're doing those same game parlays, it's the 2 touchdowns is going to be a big thing, but like for Carson Wentz, I think you throw 1 interception, and I mean, actually he hasn't really, but maybe a turnover. I wish you could get turnovers, but I feel like he's thrown more interceptions than this. He's only thrown 3 interceptions this year. Wow, that's crazy. No, I feel like I've seen like 15 of them.
I really like the Jonathan Taylor 2 or more touchdowns. That's the one I like.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at it. I'm definitely going to be partaking for sure in some same game parlays.
I like it, buddy. Well, I appreciate it. Obviously, this is First Sip, the way too early look at the DFS slate on Wednesday nights on drroto.com. Make sure you go check it out. If you're not a member, check it out. We added a Discord only membership. So, if premium articles and podcasts aren't your thing and you just want to talk to us in Discord, we have that option now as well. And definitely, if you're in that Discord, you can check us out on Sunday mornings from 10:30 to 11:45, as well as Mr. Dr. Roto himself, Chris, and I in there going over the slate for start sit for seasonal and DFS at the same time. It's a good time. Hopefully, we'll catch you there. Anything else, Chris? You good?
Nope, that's it. I've got it.
I love it, man. I'm Johnny Danger. He's Chris Emmerich. We'll catch you on Sunday morning.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and